Joining me right now to talk about tonight's debate, give us a little bit of a preview, is Sarah Rumpf with Breitbart News in Breitbart, Texas. Sarah's been covering the Republican primary quite a bit so far. Sarah, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was, of course, to talk about the Republican debate, but also you spent obviously a lot of time in Florida covering the Republicans in Florida, and so you know quite a bit about Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush. And for Jeb Bush, he was supposed to be the guy leading everyone by this time. He was, that's what the media at least claimed, is that Jeb Bush was supposed to be the number one guy, and he's lost all momentum, all steam. He's still second or third place in the polls, depending on which one you're looking at. What can you tell us about specifically about Jeb Bush and what we can expect to see maybe out of him tonight?
Well, first of all, I've written about this a bit. I am highly skeptical of any sort of predictive nature of polls at this point. If you go back and look historically, the people who are the front runners at this point in the race are not where we end up. 1992 Democratic nomination, Bill Clinton was number 13 out of a similarly crowded field. So, it is what it is.
Yeah.
The thing you remember about Jeb Bush is, regardless of what anybody thinks about various other members of the family with the same last name, he is extraordinarily bright. And the people I knew that worked in the governor's office with him always described him as a policy wonk and somebody who really enjoyed getting into the details of policies. They would go to briefings with him, and he would want more details than was in their reports, and would know it backwards and forwards. He's somebody who really genuinely enjoys getting into that level of, nerdy detail with things. So, I understand the criticisms people have of him on education and immigration issues, but when he was governor of Florida, he was viewed as very conservative. And he's got some real good things on his report card from that time that if he's able to tell that story and get that out, that people may say, okay, well, it's not fair to say he's just as bad as Hillary Clinton. That kind of thing I've always been kind of skeptical of when I hear people say.
Right. What about when it comes to Marco Rubio, someone who, and you've probably seen some of the exact same stories that I've seen, what's happened to Marco Rubio? The campaign has slid from where he was supposed to be. Well, Donald Trump's taken up all the news coverage. I think you can attribute part of that there. What can we expect to see from Rubio, who is, I think, one of the more gifted speakers in this race, along with Ted Cruz?
Oh, absolutely. And again, I will just say that I am so skeptical of anybody putting too much weight on polls at this point. You have to keep in mind who they're polling. They are calling random phone numbers and asking people if they're Republicans. That is not related that well to who will actually show up in the winter on a cold night in Iowa to sit through hours of a caucus meeting. But anyway, the thing with Rubio is, you're absolutely right. I've said this for years. He is one of the absolute best communicators that we have on the conservative side. People have been throwing around that Reagan-esque word around him since he was a state representative. And I've seen this in action. People who are skeptical, not super into politics, not even necessarily Republican, meet him and they find him likable. So that's a huge asset for a politician, and especially on a national stage. He's one of the best communicators. He's got some, good work that he did as Speaker of the House for Florida, some very substantive policy goals that they put together and they got passed. That's the story that he needs to tell. People are rightfully skeptical of first-term senators after our experience with a couple years with Barack Obama. So Rubio's key is going to be to tell more of the story of why he's not just another new senator. Right.
Visiting with Sarah Rumpf, Breitbart News, Breitbart, Texas. She's been covering the 2016 Republican primary in depth, written a lot about Rick Perry as well. I want to start off with that debate, the one that Rick Perry is in. It's been called the Kids Table debate. Do you think Rick Perry can punch his way up later on back into the top tier discussion?
Oh, absolutely. And for one thing, I'm the first one to admit that most people don't have the level of interest in politics that I do. It's weird. It's nerdy. My own parents are not quite sure why I'm doing this. So what you got to keep in mind is who is going to sit and watch a couple hours of a debate on Fox News at this point. It's the most interested, most nerdy people. What is going to filter out to the rest of America is going to be the newsworthy clips. So that doesn't require anyone to sit down. That means that a good one-liner, a good attack, a good quote, a funny moment out of the 5 p.m. debate is just as likely to get used as something out of the 9 p.m. debate. So with Rick Perry on a stage with serious people like Governor Bobby Jindal, who is one of the most delightfully nerdy governors that we have. I mean, you talk about policy wonks. He and Jeb Bush are neck and neck as far as that goes.
Right.
But you know, you've got people like Carly Fiorina, who's very knowledgeable on policy. The 5 p.m. debate is going to be missing Chris Christie and Donald Trump. So, by definition, somebody else who's got the confidence of Governor Perry and is very happy with his record, likes talking about it, he's going to be positioned more on center stage at that 5 p.m. debate. He has an excellent opportunity to really look like a leader and really shine, and then that's the clips could be used.
Visiting with Sarah Rumpf. Sarah, before I let you go, what do you expect to get out of the primetime debate? Is this going to be Donald Trump ripping apart everybody, being a sideshow, or are we going to see a pretty good debate maybe from just about everyone involved, including Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, still, no matter what, the field is so crowded, and there's just not going to be enough time that even if Donald Trump wanted to screech at the top of his lungs every time he got called on, that's still 1/10 of the time.
Right.
So, you know, there's a limited amount of mayhem that he can cause. I don't think it's any secret. Anyone that's followed my Twitter saying I'm not the biggest fan of his, but I don't see him jumping over the podium and getting in fist fights with the other contenders. He's not going to be able to just scream the whole time. So, you know, he hasn't held his tongue in what he thinks about some of his competition. I assume that he's going to, I don't see him getting up there and doing the usual, oh, I have so much respect for my fellow Republican colleagues up here, ha ha, yes. That's not what we're going to see from him, but there's a limited amount of mayhem that he can cause.
Yeah, about maybe 11 to 12 minutes per candidate if they actually adhere to the time limits. You're not gonna get a lot out of these folks. It's going to be very hard for someone to be the clear winner, but someone could absolutely implode, I guess, in that time if they say one or two bad things. Hey, Sarah, I appreciate you tuning in. I'm sure folks can, of course, follow you on Twitter, and then also tonight on Breitbart News and Breitbart Texas, they can see some of your other pieces regarding the 2016 Republican primary.
All right, great. Thanks so much.
All right, Sarah, have a great one out there.